right, guys. Hey, Dental Investment Group people watching. I'm thrilled to be here with my friend, Dr. Sonny P. We're going to put on a C event for you, and then we're going to hang around and answer some questions. So for those of you who have registered for C, you're in the right place. Those of you watching on Facebook, just hang out and watch with us. So our course tonight is the top 9 P words to better dentisting, investing, and lifing with Dr. Sonny P. and Dr. Nacho. In this presentation, participants will learn why focusing on good preparation, profits, and people will help them succeed in dentistry and in life. The P words are for us, Paul and Sonny P. And I have made a list. We've made a list of numerous P words that will help you in your dentisting and lifing. Some of our objectives: identify the challenges facing dental practice owners when running a business, managing a team, and doing dentistry all at the same time. Not easy, right, Sonny?
That's hard. It's a daily grind. You know that.
Yeah. Review the concept of one of your favorite words, dentist, profit in a dental office, and when you're dealing with investments. Discuss how to identify good people that can help you with this as a dentist and an investor and person, and recognize that even with good preparation, a dentist needs to be prepared for unexpected challenges inside and outside the operatory. Like, have you ever been inserting a crown, Sonny, and you drop it and you're here to hit the floor and patients are like, what was that? And you're like, nothing, as you go to get it.
Exactly.
So thanks for being on here with us. To get started, I love doing stuff like this, and I love having you here as a resource. What you built with the Dental Investment Group is just awesome. It's a tremendous resource for dentists to ask questions about saving, investing, managing their life. One of the P words that I think we could start with as dental practice owners is production. And, you know, it's something they don't talk about in dental school. You just try and get your requirements done. But when you're out there as an associate or a practice owner, production is important. So you can tell us about your day today, or you were posting some great things on your group about days where you have a lot of production, medium production. What are some ways that you could share that enhance production in an office?
Absolutely. You know, the funny thing is dental school teaches you how to see 2 patients a day. You know, I remember when I was a third year, I go in there, have to do my first filling, and it's like 3 hours for a filling. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. Yeah. But it took 3 hours for that filling because you got to prep, then you got to check, prep, check, prep, check, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, production is important, because at the end of the day, you know, if you're running a business, you've got to pay your bills, you've got to pay your staff, you got to pay your team, and at the end of the day, you've got to make a profit on what you do in your business. I mean, you know, most of us, I mean, we're running a for-profit business, and you want to make sure you're running that business with good processes, with good people, so you can have good profits. So production is the key. You know, what good is that low profit if you can't increase the production? I mean, you've got to be able to increase the production. That's the first thing you've got to be able to do is work on increasing that production, because then you can trim the expenses, and guess what? That means more money in your pocket later on with more profits. So
I totally agree with you, and you made some great points there, and the things they don't talk about in dental school. You know, I remember those visits. It's like the dentures would be 14 visits. Like, today we're just going to look at the bite rim. We're not going to put it in the patient's mouth.
Right.
And, I always say, you know, if you practice the way they taught you in dental school, you'd go directly out of business, because you wouldn't be able to sustain your expenses. One of the important parts that you also don't recognize is, you know, a DO on number 19 that takes you 47 minutes may be valued at $200, and an implant crown impression, which takes you 17 minutes, is valued at $2,000. And that is just, I don't know if it's a technical term, the cray-cray world of billing in the dental practice. But identifying procedures that are more productive is important early in your career. In your office, if we take a look at procedures that have high production, medium production, low production, run us through this. And just before you answer that, Sonny, if you see me duck out, I'm going to just put a list of our P words in Facebook, in the Facebook Live and chat. So I didn't go anywhere, but, you know, you talk to the group, tell us about procedures that are highly productive in your office.
Absolutely. And you know, when you say implants, I mean, without a doubt, you know, taking an impression for a custom abutment and an implant crown, I mean, that's easily one of the most profitable procedures. But at the same time, I realized that that's not a reality for most of us day in, day out. I mean, sometimes you get 2 or 3 impressions a day. Sometimes you get none. Sometimes you get one. So there's a lot of that daily grind with fillings, crowns, some perio and that kind of stuff. But a lot of that bread and butter practice can make you a lot of money, but you just have to be really good with your systems. Like you just said, if it's a DO on 19, should you be working with that patient, educating them better, and making sure if they have other treatment needs, you're able to take care of that at the same appointment, quadrant dentistry, or they need more work done, and you're able to maximize their time, maximize your time. You're not having to break down the room or have more chair time that's blocked for multiple appointments. You really have to be smart about it. You have to schedule efficiently with some of that stuff. And of course, I know that not all states allow expanded functions. So,
which is crazy. Do they allow expanded functions where you are?
They do in Ohio, so it's kind of nice. For me, I'm pretty fortunate when it comes to, being able to focus on some of the higher production stuff, like multiple crown units, implants. Doing some of that stuff is much more profitable and a higher production value per hour than fillings, but that doesn't mean fillings aren't important. So you've got to make sure you hire the right person to be able to place those fillings. So for me, I'm super lucky. I've got a great EFTA that, places absolutely gorgeous fillings. So it's nice to have those kind of systems, but at the same time, not every state has that. But, I know folks that are killing it, doing all of that stuff on their own. They're doing all the bread and butter dentistry. And the beauty of that is that dentistry gives us that flexibility to do what you want. If you want to focus on implants, you focus on implants. If you want to focus on a lot of bread and butter dentistry, you do that. If you want to focus on a little bit of everything, you can do that. So the nice thing for me, my practice is very general in the sense, we try to cater to a lot of people. We dabble a little bit here, a little bit there, a lot of general dentistry, some implants, some perio, a lot of extractions, a lot of oral surgery. So, which is always nice because those are some.
And where did you get, I want to, as we, I know we have listeners and maybe you've seen me on my group talk about, different classifications of dentists, baby age dentists, which are bad, medium age dentists, mad, seized age dentists, sad. So you're in the medium age category. How did you learn so much about extractions as a young dentist?
So this is kind of funny. I actually, when I was in dental school, my 4th year, we had these rotations. So I took advantage of some of those, and requested some of those sites where we could go in and instead of seeing 2 patients a day, we saw 8 patients a day.
Oh, cool.
Bunch of extractions, do as many of those as possible, and then volunteer. Go to some of these areas where they need people, where they need dentists to help out with oral surgery. Anytime an opportunity comes for volunteering, I'll just tell them hey, I want to do as many extractions as possible. That's what I want on my schedule. So it's kind of nice to be able to do some of those things. And you're helping people, but you're also building speed, you're building value for the patient, and you're helping the community. So for me, it was just one of those things that I always liked doing a lot of oral surgery. So it was a no-brainer. When I worked as an associate, I did a lot of extractions, a lot of dentures. So you just kind of get good at that stuff when you do a lot of it. So
I like to just pause to share when I have C courses. I actually brought some for some take-home nachos for the event here. Extractions, which used to be looked at as kind of not something fun to do. Couple things. A, when you're an associate in a practice, and I have multiple associates, it's an opportunity to help a patient who will go to you because they have no one else, right? They come in, they need a tooth removed, and you have a new associate, and if they have experience, it's a great way to help a patient. I know that extractions can sometimes go sideways, but if you have, I encourage all young dentists for 2 reasons. One is you're an associate, you can help patients who kind of have to see you, right? And 2, extractions are the total foundation for everything to do with implants. So whether you want to place, some implants, no implants, you can remove a tooth, do bone preservation, create a good site for somebody. So to me, when I just like to focus on some positive aspects of what dentists can do. And I think learning extractions as a young dentist is critical. So our first word is production. Thanks for sharing that. People who are here can also put questions in the chat or Facebook Live. Sonny and I are happy to answer that. So thanks for that, Sonny. So let me move to the next P word that I want to talk about here. And let's talk about preparation, but let's shift gears a little bit. We'll talk about preparation in dentistry. Let's talk about preparation with investing, building wealth. I want to point out that I am definitely not a financial professional. I know you are not either, but we can still share, and you just have a great, group with the Dental Investment Group. Share a little bit about preparing for your financial future at each stage.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in the fact that you have to start early with some of this stuff, just because the more time you have in the market, the better you can do. Doesn't mean that people that are in their 40s or 50s or even 60s shouldn't be investing. I mean, they should be. They should start anytime they can. But if you can start early on, it's amazing the time you have on your side to grow that money. So, the key is preparing yourself for that. Not that doesn't mean that you don't want to live for today. You got to enjoy what you have in front of you. But at the same time, you've got to save for retirement, save for that future, which means that you've got to pay yourself first. I'm a big believer in the fact that when you are spending, you have money that you say, okay, I've got an expense category of paying my mortgage, paying my car payments, all that kind of stuff. Why not make saving an expense category where you say, if I'm going to be spending $10,000 a month, I've got to save 2,000 of that, or I got to expense, I should say, 2,000 of that towards retirement.
Yes.
So this way you automate that savings process, and then you basically either do this yourself or hire someone to say, look, I've got $2,000 a month that I'm going to be spending on retirement, and I want you to invest it in the right funds or in the right stocks or whatever that might be.
I have a couple of things to add. So when I was going to Positano in 2014, I looked a little different. I had a different, now I'm like developing this dad bod. It's stuffed with love here, Sonny. That's just listening. But I'm a big fan, whether it's exercise, investing, a little bit each day makes a lot a bit later. So even before this Facebook Live, I go on the Peloton for 30 minutes because it's a little bit of exercise. And yeah, I used to be able to go to the gym for 2 hours and invest in my body the way I wanted to in my fitness. But every little bit matters, because when I teach the residents, and I'm not nearly as knowledgeable as you with investing, but the Roth IRA is a good thing, right? It's been a good thing. And I talk a lot about patient communication with them, and the way they talk to patients, it's a lot of times a turnoff. They're trying hard, but they say, you need a crown. Why don't you want a crown? You need a crown. Your tooth's broken. You need a crown. And I say, I'll be a dentist to them about a Roth IRA. You need a Roth IRA. Why don't you get a Roth IRA? You need a Roth IRA. Don't you want to save for retirement? That doesn't make people want to act. But I say this to them, do you know what a Roth IRA is? They say no. And I say, do you want to live in a cardboard box when you're 80? And they say no. And I'll say, well, you need to look into a Roth IRA. And that's how I get them to just, start to do automatic deductions, $50 a pay. We have so many good resources on the groups and in life where they're just starting early is so critical. So that's such a great message of starting early. So I'll give you sort of I like to do on my groups and in my lectures, what would you do? So let's take you back to 2 years out of dental school. You're out there, you're making $130,000 a year as an associate. You have a medium amount of loans. What would be something you would do to start saving for retirement?
Yeah, so one of the first things you can do is look at the place you're working at to see if they have a retirement plan. If they have a 401k plan that you can put money in, you should do that. If they have some kind of retirement plan at work, you should take advantage of that. And especially if there is employer match. If there's no employer match, you're still saving some of that money pre-tax. So you're getting that deduction upfront on your taxes. And again, it may or may not be right for everyone, but for majority of the people, being able to save some of that money right now on their taxes and taking that deduction is a big thing. Then a lot of times, we talk about these Roth IRAs, and I don't have the limits in front of me, but if you're married, you can make a decent amount of money and still be able to take advantage of Roth IRA. And the Roth IRA is where you're putting money in with after-tax dollars. So right now, you put money in there, you don't get you don't get to take advantage of the deductions on your taxes, but all that money grows tax-free, which is awesome. When you're 65 years old and you're like, hey, I want to start pulling money out of this account for retirement, guess what? You don't have to pay any taxes at all.
Right. I mean, I always say to people, would you like free money? I guess they'll do a Roth IRA and take advantage of it. And it's just about, I was watching one of your great webinars last night, and the person who had on really made a great point towards the end about habits. People who pay too much taxes, they're not running their practice right. And it's all about habits. And you want to do things in moderation, but I just think we need to get the message back to our younger dentists, because a lot of times, and this is just something to share, I'll come from one of the P words is practice purchase, practice purchase. Yeah. And that'll be a theme throughout. So when someone goes to buy a practice, my first dental practice, a lot of times if they have not saved enough in liquid assets in a savings account, the bank won't consider them to be a good risk. So sometimes young dentists will say, I'm going to pay all my loans and I'm going to, do all this. And then they come to buy a practice and they need 10% of the purchase price, which is standard. It's a $750,000 practice. And they're proud that they paid a lot of their loans off, but they only have, I'm just using an example, $30,000 saved. So these strategies that we're talking about are critical. So I appreciate you sharing with that.
And the cool thing is, when we were talking about Roth IRA, and someone just mentioned this on the chart, Ryan just said, for majority of the dentists, they have to do a backdoor Roth IRA. And that's a great point, because for a lot of dentists, and hopefully this is true for a lot of them, right? That we don't really qualify for a not traditional, but basically a straight up a Roth IRA. So we've got to take advantage of backdoor Roth IRA, which typically just means that you're going to put money in a traditional non-deductible IRA. And then you're going to call up your broker, literally maybe the next day or a couple of days later, and say, I want to do a conversion to Roth IRA. And it basically costs you nothing. If in those 2 days, your money went from $5,000 to $5,010, you pay taxes on that $10, and then you do a conversion to Roth IRA, and now you have this money that was going to get taxed later on is going to grow tax-free and be tax-free when you pull that money out of that account. So the cool thing is that, and these are some of the things that, I'm still amazed how many of us aren't doing that, the backdoor Roth IRA, because it's such an important component of, if you're married, being able to save $12,000 a year as a couple and putting that money towards that backdoor Roth and making that money grow tax-free and be able to pull out that money tax-free is huge. I mean, that's literally.
And also, I'll stop you for a second saying that this is why what we're doing is awesome, because we can share this through Facebook and Zoom and all this stuff instantly with younger dentists. And I didn't have that opportunity. So let's say now, okay, we have some people watching and they think, that sounds like a great tip, Sonny. Thanks. I want to look into a Roth IRA, backdoor Roth IRA. We don't have to mention any specific names, even though I know we have some great advisors in both groups and great people. But you're a young dentist in this scenario. Who are you going to call? This is one of our themes is good people in your life, good advisors, good friends, good practice consultants, just good people to rely on. So to start the people part, as I put that into the comments, where would you look for a good person to help you with that backdoor Roth IRA?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people in the dental investment group that are always willing to help a lot of us. I mean, they're answering questions every single day. I will look for one of them. I will look for people that are there to help us, and they're also willing to, give us advice. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of advice that's free, right? Some stuff that's free isn't always good, but there's a lot of free advice out there. But there's some confusion on what's out there, how to take advantage of some of that stuff. I mean, yeah, there's some basic stuff that's out there that everyone should be taking advantage of. But once we get to that point where we put the money to use now and you've grown some of those assets, what do you do with that money? How do you invest that money? And I think that's where people need a professional sometimes to help with that. Doesn't mean that we can't do it on our own. Yes, we can. There are people that like to have someone just by their side to help them, guide them, and just get them to the next step. So there's plenty of folks in the group that can help out.
And also, so, I love my people, the dentist. I don't want to brag, but I probably interact with more dentists than any other dentist on planet Earth, between brokering, speaking, dental nachos, teaching. So I am obviously someone who lives their life connecting with dentists, and I will give them credit, and I also will kindly annoy them, I say, because, Sonny, and someone on one of the groups, and he toasted your group, he wants to come up with some joint information on this. But Dennis, when you say, oh, do I need to pay a financial advisor, or do I need to pay a broker? We do not like it when patients do their own braces at home, right?
Yeah.
So what's your dog's name? That's an awesome dog there.
This is Lucky.
Hey, Lucky, that's a great dog. I would bring my baby down, but she's asleep and she'll start crying. So that dog seems more calm than Drew, my 8-month-old. But that's why I say to dentist is, people, I'll say this, nothing's new, right, Sonny? So people, when I was younger and I was teaching and they said, I don't want to hire a financial advisor, they'll take advantage of me. I don't want to hire this. Your job is to find the good one, not to cut them out altogether. So ask questions, do your due diligence, ask for referrals. But the resources that are out there for dentists are just massive, but they need to work with good people, ask for good people, and our groups have that. So I like that.
Since we're talking about a lot of P's today, so the three P's that I truly believe in that can apply to just about anything in life is going to be, people, process, and profit. And I'll tell you what, I stole this from that TV show called The Profit.
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah.
From Marcus Lemonis. But it is so true. You want to surround yourself with good people, and this applies at work. You want to make sure you have good employees, good team members, and you want to make sure your process is good. You want to make sure that the systems that you have in place are working for you. You want to make sure, same thing with investing. If you've got good systems in place, like we talked about, automating your savings, automating your investments. If you don't want to automate it, or making sure that you are actually keeping tabs on your investments, once a month, maybe once every few weeks or so, you're able to track your net worth. You're able to track how you're growing your investments. Are you actually getting better at it? Are you staying the same? Are you lagging the market? Are you outperforming the market? All that kind of stuff you want to be able to track. And not just for you, you also want to be able to track that for the advisor that you might hire, right? There are a lot of good advisors out there, but there are some bad ones out there too. So how do you know the person that you just hired is doing what's best for you? And the way you do that is to track their performance against the benchmarks, and you hold them accountable. And that's the same exact thing. When you have a dental practice, you have processes, you have systems in place. That way you can hold your team accountable for the outcome. You can, you train them, you give them the guidelines, you give them the outline on how you want them to practice in your dental business. And if they're doing all those things, you're going to see results. And if something isn't working, you hold those people accountable. And then when all of those things, when you have the right people, when you have the right systems, when you have the right processes, guess what? That translates into better profits for your dental practice, better returns in your investing career. So it's kind of no-brainer when you follow those three things in just about anything in life. It works.
I think that's a perfect point to bring up. Also, I have had someone, I played golf when I was younger. I was actually, really good in high school, and I play just for fun once a year now. But I've had some lessons, and I've also been to personal trainers. It's also important for dentists to realize, you could have a coach, you could have a trainer, but you hope to hold yourself accountable too. If I go and eat pizza at 1 a.m. after having margaritas, it's not my trainer's fault. So it's a joint effort, because I'm someone who coaches dentists and I love doing it. But I tell them that it's work on both our parts, but no financial advisor, personal trainer, golf coach has a magic wand. So I just think dentists, need to just embrace that. And I like that. And I have coaches myself in my own life I've told you about, and I have to hold myself accountable for their recommendations. So perfect, Sonny. Now let's delve back into our dental world, and let's talk about this P word, the P&L. So a couple things. Did you have any classes on the P&L in dental school? Because I did not.
I think, I don't think so. Maybe we had, one business class that we met once a week, but barely we talked about some of this stuff. I mean, it was very minimal. I just was pretty fortunate that I did my undergrad in business, so I had a pretty good idea of what was going on. But you're right, though. I mean, but you're right, though.
Lucky's mad about our poor dental school business education. I don't blame you, Lucky. Lucky,
no, he's got to understand that P&L, those profits buy his treats.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's do this, Sonny. So I love these Facebook Lives and I love the Zooms. So let's ask our audience a little bit as we sit here, some like Family Feud, Price is Right questions. I'm a kid of the 80s. That's what we watched back then. So let's say you look at a P&L of Dr. Nacho's House of Dentistry. Before you answer, Sonny, let's let people answer. What percentage is within normal limits for the staff wages? So let's say we got Dr. Nacho's House of Dentistry, hand you a P&L. He wants to sell his practice. He wants to, sell his practice, become a professional nacho maker. Share in Facebook Live. What percentage do you think would be normal? What range for team pay? And then I'll give you a few seconds, and Sonny, you'll say your answer and my answer. But I'll just share with everybody. I see Nathan. Hey, Nathan. I wouldn't have known this answer at all in dental school or even earlier in my career. So if your answer is I have no idea, don't feel bad. But this is just to let you know what percentage. Does anybody want to give us a percentage for what team pay, which should be a range that sounds normal? And as you're thinking, so when I am a broker, Sonny, and go sell a practice, and I ask for the P&L, I just scan it and just see for norms or not norms, right? Just like with perio charting. If your hygienist says, we have a lot of 7, 8, 9s, and 10s, you know what mouth you're going to look at, right? So I scan it, and do we have anybody chiming in with some norms for this? And we can, okay, we got a 25%, 25 to 27%. I'm pretty impressed because we're in a ballpark. I'll let you go first, Sonny. If you were going to sell a practice, look at a practice, give me a 5% range. Give me, that you says within normal limits.
Yeah, I'd say anywhere from 22 to 26%.
Gotcha.
I give you a 4-point range. I don't know why I did that.
Okay. You could do it. You're a dentist. That's all right, Sonny. No problem.
I think, and that's tough because it depends on where you are. I mean, you could be in a, let's say, small town Ohio, and you could be running a very efficient practice with maybe 20% team overhead. Or you could be in a bigger city like New York City, and you might be at 28 to 30% on staff salaries.
Yeah.
So the problem is, when people talk about profits or they talk about their overall overhead and that kind of stuff, and one of the biggest components, or obviously the biggest component, is the staff wages. It's really hard to judge a practice from one location to another because we don't know where the practice is, right? So sometimes, for some people, 20% is great, but for others, 25% might be great because they could be, let's say, New York City, and where the average might be running at 28% and they're at 25%, that might be a good practice.
And I think your point's great. And what I would share is when you look at a P&L, and we'll talk about a couple other things, you want to see how is it affecting the owner's life. If they're satisfied with what they're earning and they've been there for a while, their team, it's normal. If dentists want to make more money, it's normal for your team to make more money. But I have been in a practice that I bought into with my dad. We purchased other practices. You have to manage expectations of your team. So if a dental assistant comes to me, and I'm just picking out some numbers here, because if somebody watching somewhere is going to say that's too much and somebody says too little, but if a dental assistant comes and says, I'm making $20 an hour, I want to make more than $20 an hour. If they've hit the top range, I encourage them. First, I say, be proud of yourself to where you've gotten. You make $20 an hour. There was 401k. You have health insurance. But if you really want to make more money in life, you need to maybe be a hygienist. That might be the best role for you. We have hygienists to become dentists. And I think that's what we have to share with our team, because staff pay can get out of control in a mature office. Because, this is for our next Facebook Live, Sonny, when we have this isn't going to sound right, the C word. Dentists are very, very bad at dealing with conflict. So if I'll share with some people watching, whether you're some SADs out there, if you are thinking of selling your practice in the next 3 years, I have a great nacho tip for you. no raises at all. You be the person who knows that team and you do not give them raises, because if you are going to leave your practice, you can't leave this payroll that's unsustainable for a new owner. So you have to be the tough guy. Doesn't mean you have to be mean, because sometimes new owners, and I mean, seasoned owners, I get it. They kind of buy their way out of problems. I bought myself out of problems. My 4-year-old acts up at a store, Sonny. I buy her M&Ms. I buy my way out of a problem. Let's go to another category. Tell me about supplies. Maybe your office. Anybody can answer on Facebook or Zoom. A percentage for supplies that you think. I'm going to drop in P&L here. Supply range.
Yeah. So, that's a good one. I think, again, we focus a lot on what is it going to cost us. I mean, yeah, every little percentage matters, because, if you've got a $1 million practice and you save, you go from 51% overhead to 50% overhead, that one extra percentage is what, an extra $10,000 in your pocket. So it matters. So when it comes to supplies, I mean, I know we talk a lot about this, how don't buy supplies here, don't buy supplies there. One, that you got to have, a good rep. I mean, that's on your side, able to kind of, guide you through some of the stuff that you're, I'll tell you an example. Like, for general supplies, yeah, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but sometimes with implant supplies, or when you need an implant in a hurry, you want to make sure that you have some good people on your side. So for the most part, my target is, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but my target is 4% or under.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
So, and I know the average is probably anywhere from 6 to 7% out there. But I think with good systems in place where you're minimizing waste, you're not ordering too much, you're not, putting things in automation. So that's one area of automation that I don't like. People say like, yeah, I've got some of these supplies are automated. They just come in every month, or they just come in every quarter and that kind of stuff. And what ends up happening is I'll look at some of these dentists will tell me like they have like $20,000, $30,000 in inventory sitting in supplies. Yes. I'm like, why? Why can't we just have minimal supplies that you need for the month? And it takes you maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe half hour tops, go in the system, order the supplies you need, or tell the rep, these are the supplies you need, and be done with it.
You made a good point there, Pressam, though. The reps for supply reps, they're not just supply reps. They usually know a lot. They can be good resources for your practice. So I caution dentists who might just want to get all their supplies from faceless corporations. Doesn't mean that the commodity is different. It's just that in my experience, I'm a medium-aged dentist, right? We didn't have this when I started. I used to circle things in a book. I used to, write things on a piece of paper with my dad. The supply reps can be great connectors, see word for our next one, and you might need an associate, or you might, they might know someone selling their practice. So just a balancing act, like you said, and like implant reps, you might need something the day before surgery or component. And I just think that sometimes dentists become overly focused on getting their supply bill down, because I'll bring us, before we move off P&L, Sonny, I have this one. Which area of the P&L do I see dentists woefully underspending? Almost all the time. I've done it myself. I'll share some errors I've made. What do you think dentists get very dentist cheap about in their P&L?
I don't know. Lab bills?
Lab bills, okay. This is it. And this is, so they give parameters for what makes a practice healthy-ish. And of course, so you said 22 to 20%, 6%. Supplies, 4 to 6%. Now, this is something I challenge dentists to do after this live. What would you say? We got Dr. Nacho's House of Dentistry, brings in $1 million a year, 30% profit, makes $300K. Marketing should be how much of a practice's P&L, roughly, would you say?
3 to 5%.
Okay, yep, I agree with you. I'll even give you 2 to 4, but let's just say 3%.
Yeah.
Dentists are so cheap about this to their own, to the lack of success for themselves. And this happened to me. So that's $30,000 a year. That's significant marketing, right? That's $2,500 a month. So in 2000, when we purchased another practice in 2011, I did a fantastic direct mail campaign. It was great. Both practices, implants. It was a home run. And like a dentist cheap person, my dad, my brother, and I said, that worked well. We're happy. Let's stop it, right? Let's save money. And we stopped it for 3 or 4 years, and it was a big mistake. I now have done it for the past 2 years again. I will never end it. It's a great part of my marketing. So I encourage dentists to look at their P&L. And when I go to a dentist at the end of their career to sell their practice, and I see they spend 0.2% on marketing, and they brag that they get everybody through word of mouth, I don't say anything mean to them, but I say, man, in my mind, they missed out on some practice growth. So what are some marketing things you do for your practice?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because, you know, for me, I think one of the key things that everyone should be doing is brand building, right? I mean, that's part of your marketing budget, marketing dollars, because the more you are in front of patients, potential patients, even current patients, the more it matters. Because here's what happens. You know, whenever people say, you know, I ask just about every single new patient that comes in, how did you hear about us? So a lot of times, you know, it's Google reviews, or we just talk about word of mouth. But here's what happens with word of mouth. Yeah, you know, my daughter told me about it, but then I also saw your all that social media on Facebook, or I saw your reviews and that kind of stuff. So it's a combination of all those things. And I want to give a shout out to Nathan.
Yeah,
He's got that amazing program, Envision Stars, that is amazing because it helps you get Google reviews, and people care about that kind of stuff. You know, as a matter of fact, it's kind of funny because just earlier, someone said, "I'm going to leave you a bad review." It was actually one of my friends, because I was supposed to send him something, and I said, "You should," because a lot of patients are asking us, "Are these reviews real?"
yeah.
So no, I'm just joking, but seriously, at the end of the day, you know, you want to make sure you are brand building as much as possible. So for me, you know, ever since I bought my practice, I've never done any kind of mailers or any of that stuff. But what I have done is some online marketing, you know, doing stuff on Facebook, brand building, doing stuff on Google, doing some of that advertising and whatnot, but focusing on reviews, focusing on promotions within the office, focusing on some of that stuff, which is, you know, just gets the word out, making sure that patients are talking about you in the community.
I mean, that's such a great point, Sonny. And I'm part of a practice that's been in place since like the 1940s. It was like a dentist house office. People come to me well before I was born. They saw the other dentist. It's cool. I mean, I really like it. But I always think it's funny as dentists have this, you know, we're very, you know, some that's so dentists, the TSD, they think the dentist down the street is stealing my patients. The dentist down the street is doing this. I challenge them to say to a dentist at the front desk, say to a patient, could you name another dentist in the town? And they could never do it. You know, patients are unaware that a lot of dentists even exist. So we have so much open space and positive opportunity to share what we do. You know, you might have seen me share some cool implant videos that we've made. And I mean, those things just are so meaningful to me because, you know, you can share those on your Facebook page when you get permission from your patients. And this goes back to the good people part. So we talked about the investment people, same with marketing. You know, you talked about Nathan's good system. One of my sponsors is Swell CX. I've worked with other people. If you said, I'm going to take up running to get in shape, a dentist would sit at the store, not run and say, is Nike better? Is Puma better? Are there any studies on Converse? Why did LA Gear go out of business? And they wouldn't run, right? So I encourage everybody, there's great people in this space, just like there's great many dentists for patients, and really connect with marketing, because I have found, Sonny, that people that do marketing, they're just so passionate about what they do. They bring me up when I talk to them. I mean, you know, they kind of make me feel good as a person. So I think, you know, Dennis and someone had got this, Tim online here, one of my friends, Tim Chips, he got underspending on marketing. So great, Sonny. I didn't realize that, you know, I didn't know if we'd have enough P words, and now, you know, we're like two old ladies having coffee. Where it's going too long, but no, we might have to have a sequel to this. But I have the next P word. So we talked about preparation, we talked about P&L, we talked about profit, we talked about people, we talked about practice purchase. We'll get a little bit into here, but here's a word that I'd like to bring up that I think is good for people to listen to, because you're talking to Sonny, medium-age dentist, Paul, medium-age dentist. Not everybody sees what we did to get here. Not everybody always sees the journey. Sometimes you go sideways. Sometimes you have challenges. How about this with investing and dentisting? Patience. Why is patience, being patient, important in your dental and investing life?
Yeah, you know, that's actually a really good point, because a lot of times when people look at other people and their success, you know, they have this notion of, man, he must have been an overnight success.
Right.
And there's no such thing as overnight success. The time and the preparation and the patience it takes to get there is a lot of hard work. You know, and we all know that. I mean, we went through undergrad, then we went through dental school, then we went through more training, more CE, all that kind of stuff to do what we do now. And and having the patience to do all of that stuff, I mean, it takes special people. You know, I think dentists, we give ourselves not enough credit on what we do to get where we are. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, look at the time we miss out with families sometimes when we've got to get to this point. I mean, to the practice ownership, or to get to dental school, to get to a residency, all that kind of stuff. So you've got to have patience, and knowing that patience is going to pay off in the future is the key. You know, it's hard. I mean, at the end of the day, dentistry is mentally, physically exhausting, but it's not impossible. You know, we can be successful, but you have to have the right systems in place. You have to have the right people surrounding you, right team members, right people that can help you get to that next step. I mean, even think about bankers. You got to have the right people that can help you get that next loan. You got to have the right person, right financial advisor that can help you get to the next step in your financial journey. But you have to be patient with all of that stuff.
You know, it's funny. You know, when I get it, and you know, sometimes I do so much with associate placement, my own associates, managing expectations. I love the BADs, the TADs, toddler age dentists. But you know, associates will say, if somebody hires me as an associate in my practice, am I going to have to do like all the fillings and see the kids? And I'm like, yeah, that is what you're going to have to do. And they'll say, why can't I do the cool cases? I'm like, because that dentist was patient and spent a lot of time to get to there. And a lot of times in our office, I do that to protect the young associate, because you don't want to do too difficult a case early in your career. And I talk about this in my implant courses, because if you do too complex a thing with anything, investing, and you buy hotels and they go out of business, implants and it doesn't work out, a cosmetic case. So you have to be patient. And I think dentists need more of that. I mean, I love restaurants, and I can't cook anything my wife can, but I worked in the restaurant industry for years. And that really helped me, because I worked at all different types of restaurants. And you always see a apprentice chef, an expert chef. You see them learning from each other. You see them waiting their turn. And I think that's just such an important part. And you said something else. You know, you made a funny comment, but I want to add to it. When I lecture, I say, you know, dentistry is physically exhausting, mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting, spiritually exhausting, backly exhausting, because no one knows what it's like to be a dentist. So I'll just take this 30 seconds. You know, one of my things is, you know, I want dentists to be nicer to each other, because I say, nobody likes us. Our jobs are stressful. We should be nice to each other. And I mean, doing things like this is awesome, but it's just, you know, when you see a dentist at a CE course, or you see someone out there, you know, just walk up to them and, you know, they're one of your people, and do the favorite thing. What, you know, you're coming to Philadelphia, we'll talk about later. You know why dentists like to get together? Just like my wife and her mom friends, you know what their favorite thing to do is, Sonny? Complain, right?
Yeah.
It bonds people together. So more of that. So I like that.
I like that C word.
What's that? Yeah. I mean,
that C word. All right. So
go ahead.
You know, and actually it's kind of funny, because we were talking about preparation before. I wanted to bring up something, because Tim just said same-day treatment. So when you're preparing for the day, you know, I think it's crucial to have a morning huddle, talk to your team about same-day treatment. And the reason is because you want to take a look at your schedule and figure out where are those opportunities where you can bring a patient in. If someone calls in, and I can't tell you how many times that patient on the other side says, my dentist can't get me in, I have a toothache. And it just boggles my mind when I hear, when my friend Des tells me that. And it's amazing, because we have this philosophy that no matter how busy we are, we're going to do whatever we can to at least triage that patient, find out what the problem is, what can we do to help them out. We get them in same day. And I would tell you that 95% of the time, we can't help them with the treatment that day, but 100% of the time we get them in and figure out what the problem is, what the plan is, and even if that means that we got to bring them back a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever that circumstances would be. But same day treatment is so critical for so many of us that can make you very successful. And that comes from being prepared in the morning, because
Yes.
if you're in front office, if your team doesn't know where to put that patient at the in a given day, it can be chaotic. So you have to be prepared for some of that stuff.
I mean, I love that topic, and we can have multiple, we can veer off into just doing a little clinical stuff here. So I developed the whole system. I love what you're saying. We're the same way. We have an orange sheet system, and people have heard me talk about it. Anybody wants our orange sheet, they can reach out to me at Dr. Nacho at dentalnachos.com. We have an orange sheet you could use. And what it is, Sonny, is very similar to what you do is, where are you going to go in the schedule? But you're one Sonny by yourself, and you're the master chef. And your team knows, 3 o'clock here, 12 o'clock here. I have multiple associates, multiple things, not a huge office. So we actually triage it on the phone, but we never say yes or no. We just say, hey, Sonny, sorry your tooth's hurting. I'm going to talk with the doctor. We're going to call you back in 5 minutes, see where you go. And sometimes your assistants, and I love my assistants, that you say you're putting another patient and you get the eye roll a little bit. So I always say this is OTHAHB, opportunity to help another human being. So I hold this up sometimes and I get a worse eye roll, but they laugh because I say, hey, it's an opportunity to help a human being, and such a critical point. Same day treatment, like Tim said, is a critical point. So what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to go over 1 or 2 more P words as we get to our 60 minutes, and Sonny and I will hang around and answer some questions. What I wanted to talk about, I think is good for our finale of this one, and we can have future ones. The last P word I would do here is practice purchase. So to share with you my background, and maybe even you don't know, Sonny. So I wanted to play in the NBA, but I grew this tall and that was it. I was good at 3-point shots. It's a true story. But I wanted to play in the NBA. And then that did not work out. So I became a dentist, and my dad was an amazing dad. I worked with him for 11 years till he passed away. I work with my brother now. Love working with a group of dentists. My dad had a partner. But when I finished dental school, I went to this GPR at Albert Einstein. I stayed as a chief resident. I was able to place a lot of implants. And this was back in 2002. So I love that part. I love being part of a group. So I joined my dad and his partner. And then when my brother was coming in, we didn't really have enough work for him, but he was there. So there was a small practice about 5 miles from us where the dentist was unfortunately sick. And a supply rep said, the Goodmans could probably take over this practice. It's small. And that was my first foray into practice purchasing, which if I knew what I knew now, just to share, when I definitely overpaid for this practice, because I just said, 70% of collections, that's it. But tell us a little bit about your practice purchase journey, and I'll share my experience as a broker and buyer coach and practice owner too. But tell me a little bit about your practice purchase experience.
Yeah. So, when I bought my practice in Cincinnati, well, originally I thought I was going to move back to Columbus, but found this practice. I was like, the dentist that was there at the time, he was a great dentist, did great work. And I was like, you know what, we're clicking. We talked for probably a good couple of months before we ever did anything. And I just, I talked to my wife, and I think it makes a lot of sense to pursue this practice. So we looked at the numbers, we looked at the patient population, what kind of patient philosophy that the dentist has. So I think it's important for people to look at all that stuff, not just the numbers, but look at the fact, is this a place where you can see yourself living in this community? Or maybe are you okay, maybe commuting an hour to this practice? Or are you okay commuting half an hour to this practice? So we looked at all that stuff. And, for me, it made a lot of sense, because for me, I wanted to make sure the numbers made sense. For me, I think as an associate, I was pretty fortunate to make a decent amount of money. So for me, looking at the practice, not just, from what it was offering me, but also to make sure I can service the debt, because practice purchases aren't cheap, and you've got to make sure that you can service the debt and still be able to take home a decent amount of money. So at the end of the day, when the numbers made sense, I pulled the trigger, And fortunately, we've been able to grow the practice, every year for the last 4 years that I've been there.
I know and so tell me a little bit, the seller of that practice, how long were they there after the transition, or did they leave right away?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny. So we actually, I think, negotiated on either 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I think after day 3 or 4, I think him and I talked, and he said, looks like you're doing pretty well. Do you want me to come back next week? And I said, you know what? Go enjoy retirement. I got this. So
I mean, that's an ideal scenario.
So actually what happened was when he was there for a week, he wasn't doing any dentistry. He was really just introducing me to the patients that came in that week. And that was it.
And that's a great story. And I can, we can have an entire practice transition live at some point, but I'll share towards the end a few tips, because I know practice ownership is a great goal and it's a good fit for some. You shouldn't do it just because everyone else is doing it. There's all different types of cool careers in dentistry, from working as an associate long-term to working as part of a group to do it. But practice ownership is still a big goal, and I think a good one, whether it's an acquisition or a startup. But if we just talk about acquisitions for a minute, I was just on another group and someone tagged me and they said, I want to buy these 2 practices. Oh, and my first question that you should ask is, why is the seller selling? It's the most important question. So it sounds like in your scenario, it was a pretty normal circle of dentisting life. Good dentist, ready to retire. But we have things where dentists are sick, dentists are ill, dentists want to sell, but then work the same schedule. One thing I can share is there is no magic wand to turn a 1 dentist practice into a 2 dentist practice. So when someone says, I'm going to buy a practice and the seller is going to stay on the same schedule, I just say in my head, that's not going to work, because if you were eating 2 slices of pizza a day and someone now is going to eat half of your pizza, you're not going to be able to pay that pizza bank loan. So why is the seller selling is an important point, okay? What you said is this where you want to live for the rest of your life? And I can share too, is buying a practice is the biggest decision of your dentist life, because I go to sell practices and I will hear that the dentist has been married a couple times, the dentist has this, but they've only had 1 practice. So it just shows you that that practice purchase is so critical. So do your due diligence. Don't let your emotions get the best of you, for sure. And I do feel for the generation right now trying to purchase practices, because how is the DSOs in your area, are they influential in the practice transition landscape or not too influential?
Yeah, so I mean, they're definitely getting there. I mean, I think every week I'll hear that there's this practice being open or this practice being acquired in the area that's being acquired by DSO. So it's definitely there. I think at the end of the day, this is part of the reason why some of these groups exist, is to bring those private practitioners together and be able to help each other out. If someone says, a private practitioner says, hey, I'm going to be selling my practice, and there's a buyer out there for them, that's the kind of thing I want to see.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, what you were doing the other day is great, and I'll share is, so if I'm a young dentist and I'm asking myself, I want to purchase a practice, I've been an associate for 4 years, what's the first thing I'm going to do? And my answer is go to local CE, because someone was just watching, one of my great friends, you're going to meet him in Philadelphia, amazing dentist, speaker, Todd Fleischman. When he was younger, no Facebook, no nothing. He's been on our podcast. His episode's awesome. He was the youngest guy at the study club. He went there to learn. He, maybe his friends were doing something else, or they didn't want to pay for a study club. I'm just speculating. But he went to a study club with mads and sads. And he went there to learn. And when the came time for him to find a practice, because he had this relationship with the study club director, he had gotten to know dentists in that area. So the 50 and 60-year-old dentists are not all on Facebook. They're not all online. They're out in the world. And when you go and sit next to them and you say, oh, I'm, 29 years old, I'm looking for a practice, just like dating, Sonny, old-fashioned dating, so to speak, they may say, I'm not looking to sell my practice, but the guy I play golf with is.
Yeah.
And that relationship magic is what dental students and young dentists, and I fear all of dentistry, is losing. Because, I go to big meetings as a participant, as a vendor, as a speaker, and I'm actually sad that there aren't more people there, because dentists are in their offices by themselves. So I encourage them to get out there, go to local CE, but especially when you're looking for a practice.
Right. Yeah, it's you know, it's amazing how life works. I mean, sometimes you may not even be looking for that practice, and all of a sudden something comes along, and it clicks, and you're like, hey, this is it. This is the practice I want to buy. So you're right. You have to be in the right place at the right time, but you have to get out there and try to meet these people.
And before we give our CE code, I'll give everyone a broker tip, right? So when you're going to buy a practice, use every resource available. Get to know all the brokers, look online, go to CE. This is your once decision. Use every resource available, just like you would if you're trying to get married, maybe even buy a house. But if you are someone who's looking to buy a practice in the area, and I'm the broker, Paul Nacho, the broker, and you say, hey, Paul, you're buying it, Sonny. You say, I want a 5-operatory practice that does $1 million a year, and the seller wants to leave. Shocker. Everybody wants that, right? If I say, hey, Sonny, young dentist, I got a practice. It's 4 operatories, and it does $600,000 a year. And I know it's not what you exactly wanted, but this seller's a really nice guy. Would you go and visit and see? When you say no, I mentally put you in a different category than if you say yes. And here's why. You should say yes. It's just a coffee date. And I've had people go saying, I don't want a $600,000 practice with 4 operatories. And the next thing you know, they buy it. They turn it into $1 million practice. And if the only reason they did that was because they were open-minded enough. So I would say, as many practices as possible.
That is so true. I mean, and going back to, before I bought my practice, I mean, within those first 2 or 3 years I was an associate, I probably visited 30 some practices,
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things. I wanted to know what's out there, not just looking at the practice profile on a PDF, but really looking at the practice, looking at what the location is, what kind of intersection they're on, what kind of traffic patterns there are, all those little things I wanted to take a look at. Can I see myself living in this area? Just things like that were so crucial when I finally decided this is the practice I want to buy. So you're right. You do want to go out there and try to visit as many practices, because what's going to happen is you're going to find inefficiencies and efficiencies in those practices. And you're going to say, well, I don't like this about this practice, or I do like this about this practice. So when I do buy a practice, I'm going to be able to implement some of these ideas that this guy's doing, or this doctor's doing, and use that in my practice. So just those little tidbits that help you out in the long run.
I think it's great. Well, let's do this time. We're going to hang around for questions, but for those of you getting CE, your complimentary CE, I know Dennis loved that, so get ready for it. Here's the code that you'll need. Okay, I'm going to hold it up for a minute. The code is 508 3Ps, 508 THREEPS, 508 3Ps is the code. So that ends our CE course. You have to register on CE Zoom. Now, Sonny and I will hang around for some questions, but I also have some fun announcements here of all kinds of papers. So I can't wait. I'm going to meet Sonny in person on May 31st to June 1st. You're coming to Philadelphia. Have you been to Philadelphia before?
I have not.
Oh, wow, look at that. Your first time. It's the birthplace of our nation, Sonny. I mean, people, you could ring the Liberty Bell, say that I said you could. No, don't say that. But it's an awesome town for eating, for sightseeing, for historic stuff. So the Denison Team Boost Festival is May 31st to June 1st. We're going to put that in the links here. So we have almost the entire in-person part sold out. We got about 10 or 15 spots left. It's going to be Dr. Sonny, Jamie Amos, Rob Montgomery, Mark Costas, Desiree Yazdan, Todd Fleischman. Dimitri's going to come talk about saving teeth versus implants. It's going to be all about talking about training your mind, your hands, and your word skills. We have a great time, social event. Sonny, you're going to be sharing some investment stuff and more of this type of stuff there?
Yes, absolutely. We'll go over some cool things over there.
And now I know Dennis love a deal, so we have a Sonny affiliate code, Dr. Sonny. So if you use Dr.Sonny, I'll put that in here too. Dr.Sonny. On one of the links, you will get a prize. Now, Sonny, you've been to a lot of CE, and I've been to CE, right?
Yep.
Most of the time, you can only go live. And when the CE's over, it's over. It's like a play, right? It's gone. You say, man, that guy said something. Sonny said something about Roth IRAs. What did he say? I was too focused on the lunch, right? I was getting a wrap. I was playing on my phone. But what I've done, and I'm really just thrilled to be doing this, is I've done this a few times. I'm live streaming the CE. So you can watch in for an amazing price, get 10 CE credits, just like you're doing here on our Dennison Team Boost live stream. I'm going to put that in the links. It's only right now, until the price goes up, it's only $149 for 10 CE. Pretty good deal, right, Sonny?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a deal.
Now,
that's a good investment.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So but what's cool, Sonny, and I do this because I just am so excited to do this. So I love CE, been doing it for years, but once it's over, it's over. Now you can watch it from your couch anywhere. But what I do for everyone, because I know dentists, Sonny, they say, I'll sign up, but I have my grandmother's 90th birthday at 3 o'clock and I'm going to miss this part. I won't sign up at all. I said, easy, dentist. I got you. You get the recordings of the event to have forever, like a talking textbook, which I'm just so cool because you can go back and refer to it. You can watch it again. You could show it at family parties. So we appreciate you doing that, Sonny. Have you ever been to a CE where they live streamed and recorded it for it before?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, I mean, I hope
it recorded, but I don't think they live stream it.
I hope it catches on because I hope cool. More people do it because, you know, I'm a dad of 2 and married. So I'm in here in Philadelphia. It's hard to always fly somewhere, but it would be great if they let you watch in on the content. And we have an amazing team that does it. But I just think that's the new wave in CE, kind of like a concert to do that. So what are you excited to do in Philadelphia when you come in?
Hang out with you and some of the other folks that are, you know, that are the best in the industry. So
I will say he's one of my friends, but one of the people said, I can't come to the CE, but I'm going to come in just to see Sonny, Matt Bickle. So he's coming just to see you. That's great.
That's pretty cool.
And
I've been trying to convince Marty, you know, I hope he would come, but he said he's got some kind of birthday party or something.
Yeah, we're going to try to get Marty to come to something. He did come. He came to the Corey Glenn event. We spoke as a team, and it was fun. Marty is a great guy. I think, you know, one of the things is we're just chatting here, you know, we should be cognizant because I know my daughter will have something called Snapagram that I never heard of. You know, there's no context online. So like you were saying this the other day, take everything with a grain of salt when you read things online. And I give people the benefit of the doubt because you meet Marty in person. He's funny. He's witty. He's like dentistry's Larry David. You ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
That's right. Yep.
You know, he's that. Anything coming up in your neck of the woods or for the Dental Investment Group? I know you had that great webinar last night with Jay.
Yeah. So you know, I was talking to someone, and because we're talking about some of the practice purchase stuff here, next month we're still trying to find out the date, but I want to do something on what are the questions. You know, what are some of the things that you should look for when you're trying to buy a practice, when you're trying to sell a practice. So we're going to be doing a webinar on that. Not sure what the date is, but I'll post that on there.
I'll be happy to contribute or help because what I do, you know, I look at practice. I've purchased 3 or 4 practices, but I've looked like you at like 30 to 40, and it's not easy. And one of the things, it's not always easy when you know what you're doing to know, especially if this is going to happen. Like when you buy your core practice, that's your core practice. You're there. You're the chef in the restaurant. But when you start expanding, and you know, Mark Costa is going to talk about that at the meeting, which is he's an amazing guy. You know, do these things make you money? Maybe. How much attention do they take? One of the things that I talk about, Sonny, a lot is a lot of people say they want to buy another practice and employ dentists, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't want to be that dentist who's employed. So where are you going to find the assistant chefs to work in your satellite practice? It's much harder than people think. If I could share with you from the Paul Goodman world, I get calls and emails and texts daily about I need an associate. I need this dentist. My associate's going back to Perio. We had an associate. They left. We've had somebody, you know, wanting to take over this practice. The DSO bought, and they need to replace them. So if you want to do multi-practice ownership, you really got to get good at working with dentists because that's what your livelihood's going to be based on.
And I'll tell you what, my biggest tip to dentists is that work on maximizing the potential of your own practice first. Because once you do that, once you have good systems, then you have a better ability to replicate some of those systems. But there's so many opportunities within your own practice to really just make a lot more money than what one is right now.
Very true.
And focus on that. You know, once you know that you have hit that ceiling, you can't make any more money in that practice in that location, what is the next step? I mean, do you buy a bigger building, have more ops, or do you buy a satellite office like you just talked about? So there's so many different ways of going about that, but there's still so many inefficiencies in people's practices that they can really work on that, as opposed to, you know, chasing a second practice or chasing a bigger location.
I totally believe you. I mean, I don't know if, you know, I'm knowledgeable in this world. You know, you talk about investments, you know, if a dentist is doing a great job running a second practice, a great job, right? They're working at their practice, they're running another one with an associate. You know, the profit margin, if they're making between 10 to 20%, they could be doing a great job. And if the practice is only doing $500,000 a year, some of your listeners who don't own practices yet say, oh man, you know, that's $50,000 to $100,000 a year, but it's $50,000 to $100,000 a year the hard way, because you're managing that practice. And it also comes with risk, just like real estate investment. If that office needs a new chair, like a capital improvement, or needs a new autoclave, or needs this, that can come out of your profit. So I think it's great what you're doing there to share with that. So as we finish up here, Sonny, I want to say that I'm getting in shape for summer, so I only allow myself one drink per night. But they say one glass of wine is okay. So I have this entire bottle and a straw here. So this is my drink for the evening. Are you going to go have a beer?
Maybe tomorrow for sure.
Tomorrow for sure. Yeah, that's your Thursday night. Can't wait to see you in Philly in person. As the discount code, Dr. Sonny. If you want to reach out to us at drnacho@dentalnachos.com, we'll send you the link. This was super fun, Sonny. Let's do it again. Thanks everybody for watching, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.